The Abominable Love, a novel by Dr. A. Ahmed. This is an intriguing epic story which resonates with love, resilience, courage, and sacrifice. Copyrights. All rights are reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author, except by a reviewer, who may quote brief paragraphs for a review to be printed in a public newspaper, general magazine, school journal, or university article. This tale is a work of fiction, but the entire novel is based on a real love story between an Arab girl and an African boy. All names, characters, places, and events are either the product of the author's imagination or used literary. Therefore, any resemblance to actual people, living or dead, events, or locales is merely coincidental. Chapter 28. The first session of the trial of Insaf at the Khartoum Criminal Court. The lawyer Siham Khalil divided the charges against the accused, the Arab girl Insaf Salah al-Junaid, into 3 groups. The breakdown was based on the 3 cities in which the suspect had allegedly committed each set of crimes. On this basis, she asked the court to give her 3 days to defend her client against the charges written against her. The criminal court authority accepted her request and set 3 consecutive Fridays for the 3 hearings. Friday, being a public holiday, all residents of the Triangle capital city are expected to attend this historic and unique trial. On the day of the first hearing, the courtroom opened to the public at 2:30 p.m. At 3:30 p.m., the court door was closed. People who were unable to enter the courtroom were asked to return to their homes and watch the trial on their television screens or hear it on their radios. The trial began at 4:15 p.m. A court officer read the charge sheet. Khartoum police prepared a long rap sheet of charges against the suspect, Insaf Salah al-Junaid. It is a summary of all the charges written by the police authorities of Gadaref, Port Sudan, and Khartoum against the suspect. The prosecutor in court is an old man who believed in the rulings, customs, and traditions of Islam more than his faith in God. When he came forward and faced the crowd, his religious appearance revealed that he intended to preach a sermon at a mosque rather than convict the suspect. He began his speech by quoting part of the Quranic verses from Surat An-Nur 24, verse 2, which stipulates the punishment of adultery. The adulteress and the adulterer, flog each one of them with 100 lashes. And let no pity for them prevent you from establishing God's rule if you believe in God and the last day. And let a group of believers witness their torment. He then spent a few minutes praising the Prophet Muhammad, his family, his companions, his relatives, and all the blessed generations of Muslims who followed after him and the followers of the followers. The judge had to ask him to brief and face the court instead of the public. He then turned his face to the judge and began to speak in a loud voice, "Your Honor, fair judge, and distinguished jurymen. The crimes of the suspected Muslim girl, Insaf Salah al-Junaid, were not committed by her in self-defense or under duress. Rather, she disobeyed her parents, ignoring our good norms and social customs, rejecting the teachings of our beautiful Islamic religion, seeking pleasure in forbidden ways, and being greedy to earn haram money. This is what prompted such a young woman in the prime of her life to commit such heinous crimes." The police authority interrogated the accused, Insaf Salah al-Junaid, and she confessed to her heinous acts. Accordingly, I ask this esteemed court to impose the harshest punishment on the accused, Insaf Salah al-Junaid, for the heinous and reprehensible crimes she committed against her Islamic religion, her Sudanese community, her Arab family, and those 4 innocent victims whom she killed in cold blood. Her punishment will serve as a warning to any woman who tries to break the law and indulge in the pleasures of this fleeting world. By this I mean any Muslim woman who refuses good, follows falsehood, rejects the right teachings of her Islamic religion, rebels against the authority of her husband, disobeys her father, challenges her society, betrays and cheats on her husband, and sells her body to lustful men for financial gain in forbidden ways. Therefore, I ask this esteemed court not to have pity on the suspect, Insaf Salah al-Junaid, and to issue a death sentence against her for the horrific crimes she committed against humanity and against 4 victims, the first of whom is her infant child who came out of her womb, the second is her Muslim husband, the third is her companion in a house of depravity, and the fourth is a woman who is a pimp in a house of prostitution. Oh, Allah, have I reported? Amen, O Lord of the worlds. After delivering his short sermon as if he had said it in a mosque, the public prosecutor returned to his seat. The court immediately asked the accused lawyer to come forward and present her line of defense. Lawyer Siham Khalil looked nervous, and her steps were uncertain as she walked towards the judge and jurymen. She holds a large red file in her right hand. She adjusted her Sudanese sari top on her head 3 times as she walked down the hall. Every time her sari slips from her head, her long, dark hair is revealed. Her big eyes revealed not only her beauty, but also her boldness and courage. Her round face showed not only a determination to champion the cause, but also a willingness to fight, challenge, expose, and persuade. She stood between the judge and the audience. She faced several TV cameras. Then she opened her huge red file, chose the papers she wanted, and raised her head. She looked first at the accused, Insaf Salah al-Junaid, and then turned her gaze to the judge and jurymen. Lawyer Siham began speaking in a loud voice, Your Honor, the judge, and the distinguished jurymen. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Deng Nasser appointed me to defend the case of the accused, Insaf Salah al-Junaid. I admit that when Mr. Deng first contacted me, I was reluctant to plead this case. Deng is the same African boy accused of falling in love, committing adultery, and illegally fathering a forbidden bastard child, or the so-called walid haram with my client, the Arab girl Insaf. He told me that he had not had any inappropriate sexual contact with Insaf. He admitted that one day he saw her on her way to the all-girls high school, which was near to his all-boys high school, and he admired her beauty and fell in love with her. Over time, Insaf responded to his emotions. This happened when Deng was living with his parents in the city of Gadaref. He wanted to marry her, but his wish was not fulfilled. When Insaf's father learned of the love affair, he stood against it. The reason for the father's refusal is that Deng is an African boy from South Sudan, and his daughter is a Sudanese Arab girl from the east of Sudan. We are all aware of the disgusting racial discrimination we experience in our African country, which is considered an Arab country. Therefore, Insaf's parents were incredibly angry when they learned that their white northern Arab daughter had fallen in love with a southern black African boy. Out of his anger, her Arab father took her out of school and locked her in the house for more than 6 months. Her angry parents also shaved off all her hair and made her bald. Then Insaf was circumcised, and her genitals were mutilated again, even though she was a Muslim girl who had been circumcised since childhood. The neighbors were aware of the so-called abominable love affair or unwanted romantic friendship between Deng and Insaf, and what her father and mother did to break their socially unacceptable and racially objectionable relationship. For more than 6 months, Insaf remained locked in her room like a fallen girl carrying shame on her body. It so happened that one morning, a woman found a dead child in a seasonal creek near Insaf's house. The neighbors concluded that she was the girl who gave birth to the bastard child, and her mother strangled him to death and threw his body into the creek at night. Therefore, her mother was also accused of participating in her haram pregnancy, illegal conception and delivery of walid haram, and murder of a bastard child. By then, Insaf was engaged to her cousin. The cousin broke off his engagement as soon as he heard rumors that she became pregnant illegally, gave birth to a bastard child, and killed him. After that, the father of Insaf was keen to get rid of his so-called promiscuous daughter, and so he accepted the first Arab old man who came to ask for her hand in a permissible Islamic marriage, and that old geezer happened to be the late Hajj Taha. Imagine, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the bench of this esteemed court, that a teenage girl in the prime of her youth, at the age of 17, was forced to marry an old man of 77 years who already had 3 wives in his estate and with whom he had sons, daughters, and grandchildren. Which teenage girl in the world would agree to marry a man older than her grandfather? Birth and death records showed that the late Hajj Taha was older than her grandfather, the late Hajj al-Junaid. Even his grandchildren are older than Insaf, and when she was a 9-year-old girl, she played with his granddaughters in a Nima tree in his house. As stated in the formal accusation, on the first wedding night, when he entered her confinement room in her father's house and tried to consummate his marriage to her, the teenage girl, Insaf, pushed the old man, Hajj Taha, and caused his death. As I mentioned earlier, and I would like to repeat it again, the groom, Hajj Taha, was 77 years old, and the bride, Insaf, was 17 years old. The accused told me that at that time she was just a virgin teenage girl who had never married and had never known a man before. I have 7 cases of brides who pushed, hit, or kicked their grooms on the first nights of their weddings and caused their untimely deaths, but none of them had been charged with first-degree murder or crime. I had obtained these criminal reports from the Gedaref Police Directorate. Their cases were rejected by the criminal judges who investigated the circumstances of those incidents and acquitted the brides of premeditated murders. One of the accepted and required customs in the city of Gedaref and many other cities in Sudan is that the new brides should not allow their grooms to have sex with them on the first wedding nights of their legal Islamic marriages. Likewise, the bride, Insaf, should not bear the responsibility of following the customs of her people. She quarreled with her groom, Hajj Taha, because her Arab father forced her to marry him against her will. Even such a reason would not be considered a murder by the Gedaref court. There are many situations where wives quarreled on their wedding nights with their husbands and caused their deaths. This was first because of custom and secondly, because their husbands were old enough to be their fathers or grandfathers. Therefore, the wife, Insaf, did not intentionally kill her husband, Hajj Taha. She said that she pushed him when he tried to consummate his marriage to her against her wishes. Her push caused the old man to fall on his back, fracturing his fragile skull and dying inside her confinement room. Therefore, his death was accidental and not the result of premeditation and deliberation, as Article 114 stipulates about premeditated murder, the penalty for which is death by hanging. After that, the bride, Insaf, fled from her home in a panic in the middle of the night. Then she went to the railway station in the city of Gedaref and traveled by train to the city of Port Sudan. Since then, she became a girl without shelter or money, a runaway, and a homeless young woman until the Khartoum police recently arrested her. Wherever she went, people used her maliciously and abused her severely. Then lawyer Siham stopped talking and opened her big red file again. She selected some papers and closed her file. Before resuming her line of defense, she took a sip of water from the cup placed on the large table for the judge and his jurors. On the same night in which the neighbors in the neighborhood accused Insaf Silla al-Junaid of giving birth to a bastard child and that her mother was supposed to have strangled and killed the infant, which is called the Walid Haram, or illegitimate boy. Another young teenage woman died in Al-Gedaref Civil Hospital. Some people brought that teenage girl in a taxi to the hospital. These people left her on the bench in the emergency department and disappeared. Unfortunately, the young woman bled to death. Hospital staff informed the police authorities about the woman's lifeless body, which was found dead. The police investigated the matter and were able to identify the family of the dead girl. The girl's mother told the police that her daughter left home that evening with her girlfriend. When the police arrested her friend and interrogated her, she confessed that her friend had given birth to a bastard child. She revealed the name of the midwife who secretly helped the girl give birth to the so-called bastard child or Walid Haram. At the time of birth, the girl began bleeding profusely. The midwife was afraid of being arrested and condemned by the law because she helped a girl pregnant outside a legitimate Islamic marriage to have an illegal abortion. That's why she asked the other girl to take her friend to the hospital. The other girl was also afraid of being involved in an illegal abortion. She asked a taxi driver to help her take her friend to the hospital. At the hospital, the girl and the taxi driver secretly brought the dying young mother, left her on the bench in the emergency ward, ran away and disappeared together. This secret abortion attempt took place in the midwife's home, which was only a few meters away from the Insaf family's home. The midwife was arrested and admitted that she had sought the help of a woman from the Phalatia tribe to get rid of the dead infant. She added that the child's mother was the one who strangled the bastard child she gave birth to in a forbidden manner immediately after his birth. The police authorities did not accept this and accused her of infanticide or murdering children. The other girl, a friend of the mother, testified against the midwife. The Arab mother of the illegitimate baby was forced to undergo a secret and illegal birth because her Arab boyfriend impregnated her before their marriage. The court convicted the midwife in Gedaref of first-degree murder and sentenced her to 14 years in prison. The other friend was also convicted for covering up the crimes of illegal birth and the murder of an ill-gotten baby, or bastard child, and is currently serving a 5-year prison sentence in Gedaref Central Prison. The cabbie was acquitted, but his license was withdrawn, and he was banned from working in taxi services for life. Surprisingly, the criminal court closed the file of the case and did not attempt to find out what happened to the infant's body. The Phalatia woman hired by the midwife to dispose of the baby's body was arrested. This arrest occurred after my second recent return to the city of Gedaref and asked the police to track her down. When she was arrested, she pleaded guilty to hiding the infant's body under some rusty metal in the same creek where Insaf's neighbors discovered the bastard child. Moreover, she admitted that she was the same Nigerian woman who screamed on a Friday morning and called on the people in the Almadon neighborhood to come out of their homes to see the scandal of Walid al-Haram, or the body of the murdered bastard child. She thought that by acting out that drama, she would not be accused of participating in the killing of the innocent baby. As a result of these discoveries, the arrest and the reinterrogation of some of the perpetrators, such as the midwife, the friend of the deceased mother, the taxi driver, and the Phalatia woman who screamed, the Gedaref Police Department recently lifted this charge against my defendant, Insaf. Accordingly, Your Honor, the judge, and your distinguished jurors, the bastard child was fathered by an Arab girl named Nadia Ali Hassan. He was then killed instantly at birth by being strangled to death by an evil midwife named Mastura Musa Sharif al-Din. Chapter 29. The second session of the trial of Insaf at the criminal court in Khartoum. The lawyer Siham Khalil's defense of the suspected Arab girl Insaf was met with mixed reactions in the capital city of Sudan. Many praised the smart lawyer and appreciated her efforts and intelligence in acquitting the accused of the charges of adultery, illegal pregnancy, killing an illegitimate infant or bastard child, and not premeditated the murder of her old husband, Haj Taha, in the city of Gedaref. Despite this acclaim and praise, some religious groups found fault with the lawyer's appearance. These religious leaders criticized the government for allowing a woman to be a lawyer and appear before millions of people. Her hair was exposed several times during the trial whenever the sari top fell from her head, and according to them, it was an intentional act. Based on the stipulations of the Islamic Sharia, a woman is not permitted to show her hair to men or speak in public because her voice is considered a wara or nakedness. Her dress was not Islamic. She had neither a hijab over her head nor a niqab on her face. She was not wearing an abaya over her sexy body, and her large buttocks and nipples were visible from her semi-exposed breasts. Therefore, some clerics demanded that the lawyer, who was deliberately naked, be flogged with 40 lashes because of her indecency. They cited the following public morals law to support their claim. Sudanese Sharia law stipulates the following. Any adult female who commits an indecent act or an act contrary to public morals in a public place, wears an obscene outfit or violates public morals, or causes distress to public feelings, shall be punished by flogging with not more than 40 lashes on her buttocks and back. This punishment may be a severe beating, a fine, or both. They also said that the lawyer Siham Khalil is a woman, and in Islam, she is an awara or a naked female wherever she appears. Even her voice, which everyone heard, is considered shameful and a sexual temptation for men, which leads some of them to commit adultery and rape. She appeared in front of a television camera and thus exposed her private parts to the public. In the Islamic Encyclopedia, the word aura means that she is a naked woman, as if she were an exposed walking and talking pussy covered only by a black pubic hair. This term aura is used religiously in Islam to mean that every part of a woman's body is considered naked and causes sexual temptation for the man, which drives him to commit obscene sexual crimes such as adultery, sodomy, incest, or rape. Even the sound of a female is considered a source of sexual temptation for the male. For this reason, Islam requires women to wear the Islamic abaya and hijab, niqab, or burqa. Some extremist religious groups also found fault with the lawyer's challenge to the custom of the bride and groom on their first wedding night. This is when the bride refuses to allow her groom to steal her virginity, and he has to have sexual intercourse with her violently. This custom has good morals behind it. For example, the bride fights, screams, objects, and resists because she wants to prove to her groom, her parents, her mother-in-law, her neighbors, her friends, and her school companions in the neighborhood that she is a good, honorable, chaste, and virgin girl. Therefore, she does not allow any man to violate her honor, even if her husband married her lawfully according to the holy book of God, the Quran, and the Sunnah of his prophet Muhammad. May God bless him and grant him peace. Accordingly, this good marital custom must be respected, preserved, and encouraged. The media also conducted interviews with some religious leaders who expressed their opinions about the love relationship that brought together the accused Arab girl, Insaf Salah al-Junaid, and the African boy, Ding Nasser, before the legal marriage. All of them condemned the premarital love affair and claimed that the northerner Insaf followed the devil's steps by falling in love with the southerner Ding. Even if she did not have sex with him, by being alone with him illegally, she gave Satan an opportunity to destroy her life. They supported this opinion with the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad, in which he said, "If a man and a woman are isolated alone in the company of each other, Satan is deemed to be the third partner among them." Despite all these protests and criticisms, the criminal court refused to convict or exclude the female lawyer Siham Khalil. The second session started an hour before the scheduled time. The attendance is doubled. The court authority issued a prior announcement stating that no person, male or female, under the age of 18 would be allowed to enter the courtroom. The court also corrected its policy and reserved special seats for dignitaries and senior government officials. Lawyer Siham Khalil received an official order from the judicial authority to lower her voice, reduce her makeup, and find a way to keep the sari top attached to her head so that her hair would not appear again. Failure to follow the order may result in her being deprived of defending her client, the suspected girl, Insaf Salah al-Junaid. This time, when the lawyer Siham Khalil appeared before the judge and the audience, her sari top was securely fastened to her hair with several clips. Her face looks more beautiful without makeup. She is wearing a beautiful white sari. This time, she is not as nervous and seemed more relaxed than the first session. She walks gracefully and confidently toward the judge and jury. She has the same big red file. People look at her with admiration and respect. She began to speak before opening her red file and removing the papers required for her second defense. Greetings to all of you in the name of humanity, justice, and love. Today, I will address the charges against the accused, Insaf Salah al-Junaid, related to her visit to the city of Port Sudan. While the lawyer was uttering these words, her hands were busy selecting the appropriate papers. When she took out her papers, she raised her head and looked first at Insaf. She wanted to direct the attention of the judge, jury, and public to the suspected girl and not to herself. Her long look conveyed her message to everyone. Most people now do not see Insaf as a criminal girl as they did before. They do not consider her the killer of her infant baby, her alleged bastard child, or the murderous wife of her elderly husband, Haj Taha. Thus, the lawyer opened her second line of argument. The suspected girl, Insaf Salah al-Junaid, is also accused of stealing expensive pieces of jewelry from her wealthy Arab former fiancé, Samir Wad Masood, in Port Sudan City. In addition, she is accused of killing her friend Badriya Adarub in the city of Khartoum Bari. Although these two accusations are linked to the visits of the suspected girl, Insaf, to two different cities, they are linked to each other in one way or another. While living in Port Sudan, Insaf fell in love with an Arab boy named Samir Masood, who was from a wealthy family. Samir and Insaf decided to marry each other. However, neither Samir nor his noble Arab family nor anyone else in the city of Port Sudan knew about Insaf's past life when she was in the city of Gadaref. On the day of the engagement, a visiting woman who came from Gadaref saw the fiancé Insaf sitting near her fiancé Samir and recognized her. Then she publicly informed everyone about her romantic relationship with her Southern African lover, Deng, and the rumor that she had become pregnant out of marriage bond and given birth to a bastard child, killed him, and caused the premature death of her old husband, Haj Taha. When this woman revealed the hidden past of Insaf to all, my client had only one choice: to flee. She ran from her engagement party with all the expensive ornaments on her body. She did not have the time or opportunity to deliver the jewelry to the family of her Arab fiancé, Samir. On the same day, Samir's family filed a legal complaint against her with the Port Sudan police. On the evening of the same day, Insaf boarded the train and traveled on a long journey from Port Sudan City to the triangular capital city. It happened that on the day of her arrival, she met by chance at the Khartoum public railway station a girl named Badriya. The two girls shared their insurmountable problems with each other and discovered that they had similar invincible issues. They fled from their families because their lives were in danger. Both girls are from the eastern region of Sudan. Accordingly, the two girls decided to be friends. Badriya then suggested to her new friend that she move in with her in her apartment. Insaf gladly accepted her new friend's invitation because she was homeless and did not know anyone in Khartoum. Badriya informed Insaf that she is from Port Sudan City and works as a secretary in the capital city. However, this information is not correct. Instead, the police report showed that Badriya was a street prostitute who practiced disguised prostitution. Insaf lived with Badriya for a month without knowing that she was a disguised prostitute who engaged in such illegal activities on the streets at night and sometimes secretly called her sex clients to her apartment. During that period, Badriya did not ask her friend to pay half of the rent for her apartment. She promised to find honest work for Insaf, but she did not do so and continued to lie about her illegal activities. Meanwhile, their neighbors noticed that some men were visiting the two girls' apartment late at night. They complained to the building owner and asked her to remove the two girls accused of practicing clandestine prostitution. When the neighbors pressured the building owner, she gave the two girls a final warning. The neighbors' accusations caused a quarrel between Insaf and Badriya. Insaf became suspicious of her friend's nighttime activities. The quarrel between the two friends was heated, and some neighbors heard their verbal fight. That night, Insaf decided to spy on her friend Badriya. She went to her room and stayed awake. That same night, Insaf heard someone moving in the living room. She got out of bed and looked through the keyhole. She saw a man entering her friend's room. She decided to catch her friend red-handed in the very act of committing adultery with the man who visited her at night. She waited a while before leaving her room. The man did not stay in Badriya's room for more than a few minutes, and this confirmed to her that he had not had sex with her friend. When he left her roommate's room, Insaf was able to see him well. He didn't look like a city guy. He looked like a tribal man, the likes of whom she had seen during her stay in Port Sudan City. His hair was dirty and stood like a wild bush on his head. His clothes were yellow due to prolonged exposure to the heat of the sun and dust. Then Insaf saw the man running away from their apartment like a thief. She concluded that the man was a burglar who stole some valuables from Badriya's room. She quickly headed to her friend's room. When she entered the room, she found her friend lying on the floor in a pool of blood with a large dagger stuck in her heart. Therefore, Insaf understood that the man was the one who killed Badriya. The fear of being involved in a murder and revealing her hidden past life prevented her from reporting the crime to the police authority. She knows that she is escaping justice because of the charge of killing her old husband, Haj Taha. Instead, she fled the apartment and decided never to return. Insaf did not know what happened after she escaped from her friend's dead body. Some neighbors discovered Badriya's murdered body. A few days later, the body of the late girl Badriya decomposed, and the foul odor prompted the neighbors to inform the police. The police considered the escaped girl, Insaf, to be the prime suspect in the murder. The police found expensive jewelry in Insaf's room, gold, and money in Badria's room. The police confiscated the money, gold, and jewelry. A month later, the police sold the confiscated items, and the money was added to the government treasury. I asked the police officer in charge why the jewelry and gold were being sold and the money confiscated before the case was closed. He told me that the jewelry, gold, and money were obtained illegally. This means that the suspected girl, Insaf, and her late friend, Badria, were prostitutes disguised as college students and bought those precious pieces of jewelry with the money they earned through prostitution. Before I talk more about the killing of Badria, I would like to mention again that the police force in Khartoum sold the precious jewelry that belonged to the family of the Arab fiancé Samir Massoud, and the money was added to the government treasury. Therefore, the police authority in Khartoum must compensate Samir's family for the jewelry they confiscated and sold. If the police refuse to do so, Samir and his family could sue the government and charge it with unjustified theft. When the attorney Siham made the above remark, the audience, jury, and judge laughed. The lawyer continued, with regard to the killing of Badria, I obtained her photo from the police headquarters in Khartoum City and took it with me on my visit to the city of Port Sudan. I showed the photo to the Port Sudan police and asked them to find out the residence of the killed girl before she fled from her family. The police were able to locate her home in a neighborhood called the Tarab Hadal. The late girl was from the Hadandoa tribe in eastern Sudan, which is one of the branches of the Beja people. They are the so-called mysterious people, and Western foreigners call them fuzzy-wuzzy people. She has a brother who is 2 years older than her. Someone deceived her under the pretext of love and impregnated her with a bastard child without marrying her. Her brother tried to kill her when he learned of her ill-gotten pregnancy, but her neighbors saved her when she screamed for help. Because of fear that her brother would slaughter her in an honor killing, Badria fled from Port Sudan and came to Khartoum. In the capital city, she was unable to find work or shelter and for a while became homeless on the streets. Then her miserable circumstances forced her to become a street prostitute, and sometimes she brought clients to her apartment. She lived in a building where university student girls from Port Sudan City resided, and she falsely claimed that she was also a university student. This was the building where she later invited her friend Insaf to come and live with her in her apartment without paying rent. Somehow, her brother learned of her new place of residence and came from Port Sudan to kill her. A university student from her city told her neighbors in Port Sudan where she was and what she was doing in Khartoum. In this way, her brother learned of her new hiding place from him. The brother was the same ugly-looking man whom Insaf saw at night entering and quickly fleeing from her friend's room. When I studied the circumstances of Badria's murder, I realized that the killer was not interested in stealing money or having sex. Instead, he's someone who wants to take revenge on her and punish her for something she did that wasn't actually her fault alone. If he were a burglar or sex pleasure seeker, he wouldn't have escaped without stealing her money and expensive pieces of jewelry or raping her. The police authority did not find any evidence that anything was stolen from her room, and that was why they accused her roommate Insaf of killing her. The description of the killer, which Insaf told me, led me to guess that he might be someone close to Badria. On my second visit to Port Sudan City, I asked the police to question Badria's close relatives. The description fits her brother. When he was arrested and interrogated, he admitted that he slaughtered his bad sister in an honor killing because she had brought shame to the family. He is now in remand detention in prison and on pretrial for murder in Port Sudan. Unfortunately, he may not be sentenced to death because honor killing is not considered a first-degree murder in the Sudanese law. Based on what I said, Your Honor, the judge, my client Insaf Sola al-Junaid, is innocent of the charge of killing her late friend Badria. When the smart lawyer Siham Khalil had also acquitted the Arab suspected girl Insaf of the third murder charge, the crowd rose to their feet and began to clap and cheer as if they were fans in a football stadium. Some people shouted words of appreciation. Some men praised God by saying Allahu Akbar. Many women ululated of joy. Some girls cheered by clapping their hands, and other young guys whistled loudly. The judge gave the audience enough time to express their proud emotional feelings. Then he took his gavel, hit his table, and shouted loudly, "The second court session has ended."